Hello boys, welcome back to another session of online biology teaching, and this session is meant for class 11th biology students, and we are starting with the academic session with the first chapter, that is the living world. What is living? Try to understand it, and all of us, as we know, is living organisms have what is called life. So, what is life? Life is a unique, complex organization of molecules that express itself through chemical reactions, which lead to growth, development, responsiveness, adaptation, and reproduction. So, we can define life as a complicated process having certain processes going on right from day of birth until the death. So whatever that is going on between these two phases, life and death, we call it as life processes. So any organism that exhibits these processes is said to have life. And organisms that have life are called living beings. So these living beings, like human beings, express the various processes like process of growth, process of development. They respond to stimuli. They adapt themselves to the local environment. And finally, in order to sustain their identity in the given ecosystem, they reproduce. So the objects exhibiting growth, development, responsiveness, and other characteristics of life are designated as living beings. Characteristics of living beings are, as we said, once we say that living beings exhibit or have life, having life, living beings exhibit certain characters. What are those? Like highly organized cellular structure. They have highly organized cellular structure. Consciousness, growth and development, reproduction and heredity, metabolism and energy requirement. So these are the characteristics of living beings. They have highly organized cellular structure. What do you mean by cellular structure? They start their organization from micro level, that is atoms, then goes to molecules. Molecules will make up cells, and of course cells will have cell organelles such as mitochondria, nucleus, nucleolus, like this. And then the cells will join together, group of cells join together, express the similar characters, shape, size, then we say tissue. So you have tissue. And then tissues will join together, make organs. Organs make organ system like digestive system, respiratory system, reproductive system, like various systems will be there. And all the systems together make an organism. This is what is called organization, living organization. So any living organism starts off with micromolecule called atom. From atom, it develops into an organism by having various structures. So we say structural organization. And they are conscious of what they are doing, what the environment is, what the surroundings are. They feel, they express. And then they grow right from, say, the day an organism is born. All of us know that it is taking birth as single-celled zygote, just one zygote, single cell. And that single cell zygote becomes multi-billion cellular organism. So this is growth. That is, increasing the number of cells and tissues is growth. What about development? Development is acquiring new characters, new genes, new genome, and able to attain the tasks that are oriented towards it. So any living organism has growth as well as development. And then in order to sustain its identity in the ecosystem, it reproduces a similar kind. That means its own species. So once it starts increasing its own species in numbers, like that two population of two tigers, and in a given time, if it increases, if those two tigers increases the numbers to 2000, then we say the reproduction rate is good. And of course, heredity, that is genes, from one generation to another generation, genes will be transferred, and these genes express their characters. We say heredity. Next, metabolism. Meta means bolism, holism, metabolism. That is, there are two in that metabolism. One is catabolism, another is anabolism. Catabolism is process of breaking bigger molecules into smaller molecules. Like you have proteins. Proteins are broken down into amino acids. During the process, energy is released. That energy will be using it for various purposes, day-to-day purposes. Similarly, anabolism. Here, smaller units will join together and make a bigger units. Like the same example we can take, amino acids join together, form proteins. Again, during the process, energy is released. And this energy will be utilized by the organisms. So both anabolism and catabolism is equal to metabolism. And the energy requirements are accomplished through this anabolic and catabolic process. Overall, metabolism will help organisms to give energy. Reproduction is not a defining property of living beings, because there are organisms that cannot reproduce but still they are living, like mules, infertile humans. Even though they are not able to reproduce, still they are considered as living beings, because it is not a defining property. And various types of reproductions are there that we'll talk in coming chapters, upcoming chapters. Now next we go to identification. Identification is the finding of correct name and place of an organism in a system of classification. It is done with the help of keys. This is carried out by determining similarities with already known organisms. Now, once organisms develop, varieties of organisms are formed. How to identify which is what? So for this, we need certain parameters to identify a particular plant, to identify a particular animal. So to identify this, we need to give name for this. And the name will be given based on the characteristics that it exhibits and the habitat in which it lives, it survives. So it is done with the help of what is called keys, K-E-Y-S. So basically, keys act upon the two things. One is the similarities that are exhibited by the organisms and the dissimilarities that are exhibited by the organisms. So based on similarities and dissimilarities, we arrive at identification. And then based on that, we give name for this. That is called nomenclature. Nomenclature is the science of providing distinct and proper names to organisms so that they can be easily recognized and differentiated from others. So this is how we do it. That is, we just go for it and reduce that. Nomenclature is the science of providing distinct and proper names to organisms so that they can be easily recognized and differentiated from others. The very famous system of nomenclature is binomial nomenclature. So we must be thankful to Carl Linnaeus for that. A very famous scientist by name Carl Linnaeus. He is called father of taxonomy. So what is this biological nomenclature? First of all, we go for the classification, It is the placing of an organism or group of organisms in categories according to a particular system, which is based on certain easily observable but fundamental characters and in conformity with the nomenclature system. A hierarchy is maintained for these categories. So we have got a hierarchy of classification. So this hierarchy is based on, as I said, from a smaller group to higher group. Normally we start off with a species, as all of us know in junior classes. A species is group of individuals with similar morphological characteristics, which are able to breed among themselves and produce their own kind. That's how we define species. So species joined together make a genus. Genus or genera will make a family, and family will join together make an order. Orders join together and make classes. Classes will join together and make a phylum, and many phyla will come under one kingdom, like we say plant kingdom or animal kingdom. So before this classification hierarchy, taxonomic hierarchy is arrived, we need to give name for the organism. Naming, like even in our own homes, we conduct what is called naming ceremony. We give name to the child that is born in the family. Just like that, we also need to give name for every organism. So, as I said, Carl Linnaeus, a Swedish naturalist, has identified two parts in a name and started giving it. The first one is the genus and the second one is the species. So we say generic name and specific name. So there will be two parts in the name of every organism. The first part is called genus, the second one is called species. So generic name and a specific name. So binomial nomenclature is a system of classification developed by Carl Linnaeus. So you must remember this great scientist named Carl Linnaeus, father of taxonomy. A Swedish naturalist. According to this system, each organism is given only one name consisting of two words. The first word is the generic name, which designates the genus and is written with a capital letter. The second word represents the specific name, indicating the species, and is written with small letters. Both words are written in italics or underlined. Like we say, Homo sapiens. Take our own, the binomial nomenclature, the scientific name of human beings, Homo sapiens. According to that, the first part, Homo, is the genus. Sapiens, second part, is the species. So generic name is Homo, specific name is sapiens. And when we write this, H should be capital, Homo. Sapiens, yes, first letter of the specific name should be small letter, S should be small. So Homo sapiens, when we write, H should be capital, and then second specific name sapiens, S should be small. And then underline both Homo as well as sapiens. So this is how we need to write the binomial nomenclature. Further, you understand that we even write the name of the scientist who has given that and in which year he has given within the bracket after writing the scientific name, binomial nomenclature name. So Linnaeus described 5,900 species of plants in his book Species Plantarum and 4,326 species of animals in Systema Naturae, right, in the year 1758. Look at the greatness of this man. And then there is a technical word called systematics. Systematics, what is it? Is the science that deals with diversity of organisms and their comparative and evolutionary relationships and grouping of organisms at every level of classification, right from species to kingdom. So systematics is the science, it deals with diversity of organisms. See, we have got some organisms that live underwater, some organisms that live in deserts, some organisms that live in on land, Some will be spending most of their life in air. So we have got diversity of organisms, and we compare that. After comparison, we evaluate, means what are the evolutionary trends that an organism exhibits based on the evolutionary relationships. Like I give one example, evolution relation. Take for example heart. Now, in our case, we have got four-chambered heart. Four rooms will be there, two auricles, two ventricles. Whereas, if we go down the previous organisms, we have got organisms which have got only three by fourth, three and half, three chambers, two chambers, and single-chambered heart. So, if you see the evolution, the heart has evolved from one room to four rooms, and in future it may be further. So we compare this evolutionary trends of each organism or group of organisms based on evolution of heart, evolution of brain, evolution of other internal organs as well as adaptations. So this way of comparing variety of organisms based on evolutionary relationships and then put them in a group at every level of classification, right from species to kingdom. This is called systematics. Now further, all living organisms are classified into various groups based on their characteristics according to principles of identification, nomenclature and classification. This branch of study is known as taxonomy. So how do you classify animals? The very purpose of classifying animals is for easy identification. So how to classify it? Based on three things. What is that? First, identification principle. Identify the animal. How do you identify the animal? Based on some characteristics. Then nomenclature. Give name for that animal or plant. After giving name for that, then you go for systematics. And then based on systematics, classify. So if you do this classification of animals and plants in this way, the science that deals with such characteristics or such a nomenclature, such classification is called taxonomy. So the taxonomy, the study of taxonomy is very easy based on taxonomic hierarchy. This is what is called taxonomic hierarchy. It is also called Linnaean hierarchy because Carl Linnaeus has started off this. It is proposed by Carl Linnaeus. So, taxonomic hierarchy is the classification of organisms in a definite sequence of categories, like we say taxonomic categories, in a descending order, ascending, descending order, starting from kingdom and reaching up to species. Or you can do ascending order also, right, from species to kingdom. Each taxonomic category is referred as taxon, plural taxon, like species is a taxon, genus is a taxon, family is a taxon, which is a unit of classification and represents any level of grouping of organisms. So the common taxon categories are species, as I said just now. A group of individuals. How do you define species? A group of individuals with similar morphological characters, means external characters, which are able to breed among themselves and produce their own kind. That's how we define species. Now, genus. The first higher category above the species level, it is a group of species which are related and have few characters in common as compared to species. In case of species, let's say 100%. In case of genus, the commonality will come down. Okay, but still 80% commonality will be there. And once we go to family, it includes one or more related genera, differentiated from other related families by certain characteristic differences. So we come to family. Next, order. An assemblage of families, many families joined together, which are resembling with one another in few characters. These characters are less similar as compared to characters of many genera placed in a family. Even though there are commonalities, but the commonality is not maximum. And then many orders will be placed under class. So it includes many orders. And then many classes will come under one big bigger division called phylum. It includes all organisms belonging to different classes having few common characters. Botanists use the term division for plants. Normally, botanists use the word division. So for plants we say division bryophyta, division pteridophyta, division angiospermae, division gymnospermae, like that. Whereas for animals we use phylum Annelida, phylum Arthropoda, okay? And many phyla will come under one kingdom. It includes all organisms that share set of distinguishing common characters. Plants are put in plant kingdom while animals are included in animal kingdom. This is the highest taxonomic category. So, in the hierarchy of taxonomy, the highest taxon is kingdom and the smallest one is the species. So, the number of similar characters in the members of group decrease from species to kingdom. Correct? No? So, similarities will come down. By the time we reach kingdom, it is only one. That is, all animals come under one kingdom, animal kingdom. All plants come under one. That is plant kingdom. That means only one common character. What is that? It should be a plant to come under plant kingdom. It should be an animal to come under animal kingdom. So numbers of species are most similar, while that of kingdom share least similar characters. We further study the taxonomy based on some taxonomical aids. Okay, that we'll do in our next session.